Hello, Malik here, and you're welcome to another session of Cloud Computing. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can create an Azure Virtual Network to connect all your networking resources to each other. To begin with, the first thing you need to do is to search for Virtual Network, which I'm doing right here. So on this first option is what you click on, the Virtual Networks. So on the Virtual Network page, you have the option to create a virtual network. As you can see, I don't have any network available yet. So you can see this plus icon is what you can click to create the virtual network. So when you click on create, it will take you to the page where you need to create the virtual network. It's still loading. So right here is the virtual network page, and you can see the details showing that with the virtual network, which is VNet, it becomes your private building blocks for your network in Azure. It's more like your traditional network that you operate in your data center. So to begin to create it, you scroll down and you enter. You can see it doesn't have any resource group yet. You can see it doesn't have any. You just click on create new. Let's call my fintech resource group. Fintech resource group. So I'm going to call it Fintech resource group. I click on OK. So that's going to be the name. Then for the virtual network name, you can enter the name on this section. Let's call it Fintech-Vnet. Fintech-Vnet. The region you select, you have several regions here. You can choose the region that is closer to you. So I'm going to select the one that is there on my outside, which is US East 1. So the moment I'm done on that section, I'll just click on next. It will take me to the security section. So on the security section, you have all these options like the virtual network encryption. Note that if you select this option, it will take you to a paid option where you need to make a payment because it's not on a free trial. So the virtual network, is a paid service. The Azure Bastion, it's also a paid service. This helps you to connect to your virtual machines over TLS. You also have to enable the Azure Bastion. You have your Azure Firewall, which also provides a layer of security for your networks resources. You also have the DDoS. So all of these are all paid services. So if you don't want to incur any charge, you can just keep this region and move on to the IP addresses. So on the IP addresses, is where you can configure your virtual network address space, using the IPv4 or IPv6. Now, because of the IPv4, which is still very much in use, we are going to use something similar to that. So I'm going to allocate using IP address pool. So like I mentioned earlier on, you have to enter your IP address. You don't need to necessarily allocate your IP address pool. So this is where you enter your IP address, depending on how you have estimated yours, and ensure it is last 16 because you're going to have a subnet attached to it later. Then you scroll down and delete the default subnet created for you. So we are not using this. So we have to delete it, and create our own. Let's see, the default subnet has been deleted now. So I will have to add my own by default. So I just come and say add a subnet. So this is where I will enter my default subnet name. Let's call it frontend subnet, because I'm going to have it. So the IPv4 checkbox has to be selected. You can say you have to take it, ensure it's selected by default, and if it's not, you take it. So I'm going to create different tier layers for my network, the virtual network which I'm creating. I'm going to have for front end, back end, and the database. So right now I'm creating this subnet for the front end. So the moment you don't do that, you just scroll down, leave every other thing by default. you scroll down and click on add. So the subnet for front end has been created. So I will need to create another subnet again. So if you scroll down now, you see the default subnet. You can see front end subnet. I need like 3 to be created. So let me quickly create the 2 left now to make it 3. So I click on this. I call it backend front end, backend subnet. Let's see, this one is showing 1. The first one was 0, so this is 1. This next one is going to be 2. So I scroll down, I click on, you leave everything by default, scroll down and click on add. So that's for the backend. That's for backend subnet. So I have to subnet now for front end backend. So I need the third one, which is for database. Then I'll click on add a subnet again, to create the subnet for database. So right here, I'll just enter the name for the subnet of database. Let's call it database front subnet. So you leave every other thing by default. You can see the IP address for the subnet has increased by 1. Initially it was 1, now it's not 2. So you just scroll down and click on add. You can leave everything by default. The system is going to automatically generate all the necessary data to activate your subnet. So I click on add. Then I scroll down to check the 3 that we created. You can see you have for front-end, back-end, and database. So the moment you're done, you go to the next page, which is for tags. So the tag section is where you can assign activity which your users are going to be working on, like roles. So you can call it, let's say, project, fintech project. Let's say fintech project tag. For the value, you can see feed tag. The resources are, it's going to be by default. You can leave down by default. So the moment you're done doing that, you go to the next one, which is to review what you have been working on. So the moment you click on the review, the system will be running for the final validation to see if everything looks okay. So right now, the validation has passed through the process to be very sure that yes, it's gonna succeed as required. So you can see validation passed. So the moment the validation is passed, what you need to do now is to click on create. So you can see initializing the deployment. So the project is going to be deployed on the network. Let's give it some minutes for it to deploy. On my screen now, you show that the deployment has been successful. So if you scroll up or scroll down, you see all the details. You can see your deployment is complete and is successful. This green mark. So the subscription is Azure subscription 1. The resource group is Fintech resource group, and the virtual network has been created successfully. So what we need to do now is to go to our virtual network and begin to create all the necessary things we need to do. So virtual network. If I go to my virtual network now, you see the one I created earlier on. Initially it was empty. You can see virtual network name Fintech-Vnet. So the next thing we're going to do now is to create network security group, NSG. Azure NSG helps you to secure your resources and also help them to connect with each other on the network. So to begin with, you just search for network security group. So when you click on the network security groups, it will take you to the dashboard where you need to create all the necessary security group. So at the moment, I don't have any network security group. So you're gonna have to create one after the other, one for the front end, the back end, and the database. So while it's loading, we have to be a bit patient. So the network security group page has finished loading. As you can see, currently I do not have any network security groups to display. So you can see with your network security group, you'll be able to filter inbound and outbound traffic, to protect your resources from intruders or hackers. So right now, you do not have any. What you do just to click on create. So the create button will take you to where you can start creating your network security group for each. So on this section, the resource group, you select the resource group we created earlier on, which is the Fintech resource group. You enter a name for the NSG you are currently working on. Let's call it NSG project front end. So this NSG will be for front end. Your region, you can leave it as East, US East 1. Then the tag, when you don't enter the data, you go to the tags. The tags might not be too necessary to enter any value. You can just keep this region and move straight to review and create. So the moment you're trying to review, it will start processing the validation to ensure it's going to pass the process. You can see validation passed. So the moment the validation is passed, the next thing you do now is to click on create. Right now, we have the front-end NSG, So like I mentioned earlier on, we are going to have extra to make it a complementary NSG, each having a network security group. So to create for the backend, as we already had it from the front end, we need one for backend and the database. To create for the backend, you just follow the same process. You just click on create, and it will take you to the page where you need to start the creation. So the resource group, you select the one we created earlier on, Fintech resource group. You enter the name. So we're going to call this backend, NSG project backend. So the moment you're done with that, you just scroll down and click on review and create. So it's trying to review if the details or data were attacked. And if they are, then the process we're going to complete. You can see validation passed. So the moment the validation is passed, what you need to do now is to click on create. So it's going to run through the process of validating the deployment. You can see initializing the deployment. So let's give it some time for it to load. So right now we have the theory NSG created for each of the projects, one for the front end, the back end, and then the database. At this point, we are not yet done, creating the security, the virtual network for all the projects we are trying to work on. We still need to attach the IP subnet to the NSG, each for each. For the front-end NSG, it will be attached or associated, with the front-end subnet. To do that, what you need to do is just to click on. Let's start with the front-end. I'll just click on and ensure you are still within the NSG. That's the network security group. In case you don't know how to go about it, just click on search. You can see. You can just type it network security group, and it will take you to this page. So for the front-end NSG, I'm going to attach it to it. I'm a subnet. To do that, just click on NSG project front end. It will take you to the page where you need to associate it with its subnet IP address. Right now, it has finished loading. What you need to do is to click on these settings and click on subnet. So on the subnet page of that particular NSG, you can say at the moment there's no thing to show for it. So just click on associate. So when you click on associate, it will display the section as you can see here. You select Fintech-Vnet, which is the virtual network we created earlier on, and the resource group name is this. In case you have other ones, be very be very sure that yes, that's the one you are selecting that will match the required one. Then the subnet, since we are working on the front end of the NSG, the front end NSG, also ensure you select the subnet for front end, which is this, because you have three a subnet right there. So you have for backend and you have for database. So for now, we are working on the front end. So ensure it is selected. Then you click on OK and say it is saving the subnet, trying to associate it to that particular NSG. And say this front edge NSG has now been associated with its subnet, which is this. So the next thing we're going to do again now is to go over to the network security group and associate the subnet for each, like for the database and for the backend. So to do that, it's just the same process we carried out earlier on. You have a list of all your NSG here for front end, back end, and the database. So we have to associate the subnets to each. So since we have done the one for the front end, let's now move on to the back end. So I click on back end and repeat the same process to achieve that. So the backend subnet has now been associated with the backend NSG. So the last one, which is the database, is what we need to associate now. We need to associate the NSG for backend to its subnet. So follow the same process. You just click on the network security groups and it will take you to where you need to do the association. So here are the list of the NSG we created earlier on, for the front end, the back end, and database. So you need to click on the database and it will take you to where you need to associate it. So just scroll to settings and click on subnet. So from the subnet region, you can just scroll down, and click on associate. So with the associate region, you just select the virtual network name, which we have here. Since it's database, you can see the NSG project database has to be associated with the subnet yes, it has to be associated with the database subnet. Then you click on OK. The process will start validating for some moments. So let's just give it some time to finish. So we now have the database NSG associated with the database subnet. They all have been associated for the front end, the back end, and the database. So if you check your NSG, which is here, the network security group you have for the front end, the back end, and the database. So that's pretty much how you can go about creating a virtual network, a subnet, and a network security group in Azure. So we'll follow this process, you're able to create it. If you really find this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like our video, and stay tuned as we're going to release more quality content like this. Thank you and bye for now.